In this interview, we're joined again by contributing editor Dennis Jaffe, returning to unpack his latest column, Ownership is More Than a Gift, It is a Responsibility. Dennis breaks down the real differences between ownership, control, management, and stewardship, using a shared family vacation home to show how quickly those lines blur. He also explains why fights over dividends are so rarely just about the money. Hi, Dennis. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you, Zach. It's good to be here again.
Yeah, always good to see you. And you have a new column out, which is already available as we speak up on familybusinessmagazine.com. By the time this issue comes out, by the time this podcast comes out, the issue should be on everyone's doorsteps as well. The column is titled "Ownership is More Than a Gift; It is a Responsibility," and that's a great way to sum up what we're talking about today. And so. Let's start there. You mentioned that, just like the title says, ownership is a responsibility, and when ownership is done right, it's an institutional achievement, not a birthright. So, what does a family actually have to do to make that institutional achievement happen?
Well, so it's good. So a lot of us think of ownership as being like you own a thing. It's there,
Right.
and you can use it. It's a ring. It's a something that's nice, and that's part of ownership. But when you're dealing with a business, it's not something that is a thing that's fixed. It's a thing that keeps changing, and therefore being an owner is not just benefiting from it. It's not like owning a piece of stock or owning a. There are things that need to be done. So it's there are things you need to do. There are things you need to pay attention to, and basically, the if you don't do those things, the benefits may not be there.
Right.
So the benefits aren't guaranteed in it. So good ownership is about being conscious and responsible. It's not just it's not a gift. It's not a prize. It's not something that you've got it. Now you can run around and cheer. You've reached the finish line. It's really something that you have to do. And a
Yeah.
lot of families, and particularly inheritors, think about are really concerned about the benefits and all the great things that it can happen, but they don't really take seriously or think about what they need to do to maintain it, and that's a critical failing of a lot of families.
Yeah. You mentioned, ownership, control, management, and stewardship are sort of four different things. And so why does the distinction between those four things really matter?
Well, because they're four different things. So
Right.
you own something, that's a right, but as I said, it's also a responsibility. Controlling something is basically you have the decisions about what to do with it. So if you own it, you can sell it. If you own it, you can pass it on to who you want. If you own it, you have you decide what to do with the benefits, the profits, and you have certain things that you have to pay attention to. So that's what control is, and control means you could be one of a hundred owners of a firm, and you don't feel very much control, even though you're an owner. But if you have 51%, you have the say. You have the you can make the decisions that are important, which you can't always do if you're a shared owner of something.
Right.
Management is kind of the opposite of control. It's you are now you are being paid to do certain things, to take care of something. So you're like a caretaker. You're not an
Right.
owner. You don't benefit other than the fact that you're paid to do things, and that's something. And if you could be an owner and a manager, but the responsibilities are different. The manager is is a caretaker, is responsible for things, and the owner is the owner and has control or not, depending on it. So that's different. And being a steward is a kind of a newer idea, but the idea of stewardship is a kind of a sense there's a sense of the positive responsibility associated with something that you own, where you have you're taking care of it for something, you're responsible for maintaining it, and basically it's a you have to n- not just enjoy the benefits of ownership, but be prepared to preserve them and give them to somebody else, like your children. So it's
Absolutely.
a stewardship is a kind of a newer concept, but it's also something that can come with ownership.
Yeah, yeah, and I asked that question because I do think sometimes we conflate all of those things, right? Or they get used interchangeably in a way. Oh, well, I own this, so I also control it, or I own this and I'm
Right.
stewarding it. But you're not. It's not always that way. And you use the example of a family vacation home that
Yeah.
everybody has an
Mhm.
ownership stake in. Well, it's such a good illustration. Can you sort of walk through how that
Yeah,
process
well,
compares
this
when
is
these different
yeah,
things are?
this comes from personal experience.
Sure.
So a lot of people they have shares of a vacation home. It's like a timeshare.
Right.
You're owner of a family home, but you share it with four people. So first of all, you have to make decisions about who uses it when. You can't all show
Yeah.
up and use it. So you have to have so someone has to be scheduling, someone has to be paying attention, and a lot of people get ownership and say, "Wow, I own, now I own part of the family, kind of cabin or the family beach house. That's wonderful." And
Yeah.
then at the end of the year, you get the bill for taxes, and you get the bill for insurance, and you get the bill for this and that, and
Yeah.
it's like there are expenses, and all of a sudden you see that this is going to cost you something, and a
Yeah.
lot of people, don't think about that. And then there's a decision, like who does what. So, we had a vacation home, and I came there one summer, and my beautiful couch that I loved was gone, and a leather couch that I hated was there. And it's like no one asked me. Well,
Right.
it's like so. What did I do? So I'm the owner. I was pissed off. I said, I'm going to change it. I got rid of that couch and got another couch. It's like, wait a minute. There are other owners. So you have to be part of a group, which means you
Yeah.
have to make decisions together. You have to do things. You're responsible for costs. You have to decide who gets what, and who gets to use what. There's a whole lot of decisions to be made. And the vacation home is something that you have to cooperate, and families don't often have a good system, or they argue, like who should get the house during the holiday.
Yeah.
The wonderful July 4th, who's going to be there? Everybody? No. So there are decisions to be made, and it's like who? What about your friends? So my son used the house, and he brought all of his friends, and they were told to clean up, and their idea of cleaning up, let's just say, was not other people's idea of cleaning up.
Yeah.
And so what happens? We say you can't use the house anymore. So there are all kinds of decisions, and this is true. The difference between just being a passive owner and enjoying something and taking care of something. And so the idea of family ownership of the business is that there's a responsibility to it, and the responsibility is sometimes vague and sometimes unclear. But if you don't do it, you suffer the consequences.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then for my last question here, I wanted to just talk a little bit about dividends because that's another area where it's this idea of it's a passive income and what does it entitle you to comes up all the time, right? And you mentioned that a lot of times dividend disagreements are rooted in something more personal. It's not just about an economic thing, right? An economic issue. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, there's two things about that. One is fights about about dividends are sometimes rooted in kind of family issues, old
Yeah.
family issues that for example, a very common one is I worked for the business for 20 years, and yes, other people would say yes, you got a pretty good salary for that, but you say, well, I did it because I knew I was going to get ownership, and now my cousin is owns the same amount, and he didn't do anything. How come he got it? And
Yeah.
so there's kind of family issues in the background, but people are arguing this isn't fair. This is the way it should be. This is what we should do. Those are the way that the things get argued in a family when they can't they don't see that they're about family things. The
Right.
other thing about dividends is dividends are not a fixed thing, and if you get a profit in a business, you have to make some choices. And some families say, "Well, what's the purpose of owning this business?" And
Yeah.
some people, and like the people that work there, say, well, the purpose is to take some of the profits, many of the profits, and reinvest them to grow the business so that our children and grandchildren can benefit. Other people
Yeah.
say, no, the purpose is that we want to live a good life and we need to get some money, and this pays for my mortgage on my house and pays for the kids' summer camp and this and that, and I want to take the profits out. And
Yeah.
what if there's no profits? Well, we should take the money out anyway. Well, I mean, we borrow money to pay us, dividends.
Yeah.
Is that what we want to be doing? So the issue of what happens are family issues, and
Yeah.
it's what you do, and what you did in the past, and what you think is right, and what you think is wrong, and what you want for the future. And so there, like all of these examples we're using, responsibility is something there's a lot of things that the family needs to consider and talk about, not just assume.
Right.
And particularly, you can't assume just because I'm an owner I don't have to do anything. There are things that you have to do, and the bigger the asset and the more complicated it is, and the more decisions you have to make.